Hey everyone, Bryan here from Xact IT Solutions, coming at you today with another video, a follow-up to our Universal Healthcare Systems ransomware attack that happened yesterday, September 28th. Today is September 29th. And we do this channel for free. My only ask of you is that you either share and tell one person about this channel, and if you don't subscribe to our channel yourself, please subscribe to the channel. It helps us out greatly. And if you get entertained or you like anything you see here, we just ask that you hit the like button. That's our only fee for us putting out this content. You give us good feedback, we put out more content. You don't give us good feedback, we don't put out good content, and we stop putting out content. We want to put out content. We want to get out this word about cybersecurity to everybody. Get as much information out there. There's a lot of bad information. There's a lot of people with not so great opinions, let's just put it that way. They might not fully understand the breadth and depth of cybersecurity like I do, and I'm not bashful to say that. I study this stuff. I look at what's going on out there from not only a technical standpoint but a psychological standpoint. How do these hackers do what they do, and how do they infiltrate not only computers but human beings? And that's what cybersecurity is all about. So I'm going to get into a couple things here. We're in pretty much day 3 or 4 of this ransomware attack. It started about 1 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. Here we are on Tuesday. We have very little information from the company themselves. I'm going to go through some reports out there of some statements made by some company officials. But what I have up on my screen is the actual press release from UHS. And they basically go on to say that they have implemented extensive information technology security protocols and is working diligently with its security partners to restore information technology operations as quickly as possible. Now, they did release another statement yesterday from a PR person who put their personal Gmail, I think first it was Comcast address and then it was a Gmail address. They put it at the bottom. And one of the things that the statement claimed is that they do cybersecurity really well. So we're going to examine that a little bit, and then we're going to examine some of the statements that are being made and try to make sense of all of this, knowing what we know about both the hackers and UHS, the company itself. And once we put those two things together, we can pretty much come out with a good idea of what UHS could possibly be facing here. And some of the things that they're saying, don't quite add up in my opinion, and I'm going to cover that here as well. One of the things I've noticed a couple times in the articles and in this statement is this one right here. At this time, we have no evidence that patient or employee data was accessed, copied, or misused. This is a very common statement that we see made early on in cyber attacks. And I almost wish that whoever's advising these companies would tell them to stop saying things like this, because it gives a false sense of hope and security to maybe the patients or employees of UHS to think that, oh, well, good, nothing got stolen. We're not in violation of HIPAA. We don't have to worry about PHI or any of those consequences that come out of this. But let's take a look at the flip side of this and what we do know about the Ryuk ransomware that was released against a UHS. So Ryuk, which has been attributed to both Russian and North Korean threat actors. They essentially, both criminal organizations work together to develop the process and the system at which the Ryuk ransomware is deployed. Now, it's pretty certain, based on reports that are on social media, mainly information gathered through Twitter comments from employees of UHS, and Reddit comments and posts by UHS employees or people who say they were UHS employees, but there's been so many of them that it would have to be a pretty coordinated effort for a bunch of people to go online and release all this information, even screenshots and things like that. So Ryuk is a very, very tough ransomware to detect and contain. The initial infection usually only happens via a scam or phishing expedition. Now, I'm going to go into that a little bit more detail in a minute here, because what we know about the Ryuk ransomware and what we're seeing from the UHS CEO and statements he's made to the Wall Street Journal don't really line up. So I'm going to point that out here in a minute. The Ryuk ransomware has the ability to propagate to IoT devices or regular devices. So that's why we saw UHS's phones and radiology devices reports of those things going down. And then once it's infected on a host, it can then search that device. So let's say you have a phone or you have a camera on your network. The Ryuk ransomware can infect that device, and then it is then programmed to search the memory and search the storage areas of that device to find more passwords. And when it finds more passwords, it then tries to use those passwords on other devices and on other things on the network, furthering its ability to spread and go through the network and infect other devices. So that's one very important thing about this, is the Ryuk ransomware can move laterally on its own. It's programmed to infect your devices and then find stored passwords in said devices. And if your IT administrators or your IT staff have a poor habit of reusing the same passwords across devices and not using a password manager like I recommend all the time on this channel, then you're going to allow an attacker to move laterally within the network, not even exploiting vulnerabilities, just using that same password on things that you think are fully protected, but they're not, because somebody on your network who should be there now has a good password that they can use across your network. So that's never good. And then and then it can use those passwords to then compromise even like IT admin accounts or privileged accounts if they happen to use the same password, and that's not good either. So I'm going to get into this article here that is on the Wall Street Journal that quoted UHS President Mark Miller, and he again said in a similar statement that the public release statement said, which is, the outage caused no harm to patients, adding that the company is investigating any reports of patient at risk. No patient or employee data appears to be accessed, he said. I just don't understand how they know this early in the game. They weren't doing things good enough to prevent this attack. I've seen some things that I'm going to point out to you that contradict their belief that they have good cybersecurity practices in place, or world class, or top of the line, or whatever you want to call it. And I think it's really not a good idea for CEOs to come out and say things like this unless they have 100% hard evidence to the contrary, that they know that the data that they were entrusted with didn't get into the hands of somebody else or were not seen by somebody else. Because what we know about the Ryuk ransomware, the people that are behind it, we know that they usually infiltrate the network for a very long time, and they sit there, collect usernames and passwords, and move laterally across the network, which I already mentioned. they'll be there for months. And not only that, while they're doing this, they're accessing patient information and pulling it and offloading it to other places so they can have access to it. And what the Ryuk people typically do is they typically get what they need, so they have it in their possession, so that in the event that they cannot get paid for the ransomware attack, they will get paid when they threaten to release the PHI of the patients of the UHS healthcare system. So that is how they get it. And on top of that, sometimes they'll even get hit with double extortion, where they'll pay the ransom. They think they're free and clear. Their systems are being unencrypted and they're coming back online. And as that's happening, then they get another message from the hacking group that says, oh, by the way, we have hundreds and hundreds of gigabytes of your patient information that we're slowly going to release onto the dark web if you don't pay us X amount of millions of dollars. And then they'll begin to release information. And as they release, 10%, 20%, 25% on the dark web and show the victims that the information is being released, the ransom demand then increases. So there's a couple things here that could happen with the UHS situation that I really believe CEOs should be careful about saying things like this before they really know. I said it before, they didn't know that the people were on their system in the first place. How do they know within 2 days that they don't have data stolen out of their system? Now, they may not have data stolen from their system, but again, that goes against what we've seen historically with the people who run the Ryuk ransomware. So, I digress. Let's go into this further. So in here, he also says that the UK hospitals were not affected. But he also goes on here and says somewhere that the attack was something they never saw before, or something nobody ever saw before. It's right here. Mr. Miller said that the hackers that attacked Universal Health Services used a previously unknown technique to break into the company's computer systems. He declined to say whether the hackers have requested payment from the company. So I can tell you right now that they definitely have requested payment from UHS. That's without a doubt. That's why they did this. They didn't just encrypt all the systems and then not say, hey, we want money. It didn't happen. So they're requesting money. Mr. Miller also stated that they used a previously unknown technique to break into the company's computer systems. That would lead you to believe that this was some sophisticated attack that nobody could have prevented, that nobody could have stopped. But that just, that might be the case. We don't know. But that doesn't go with how the Ryuk people usually execute an attack. It usually happens through tricking an employee, through the use of phishing attempts and things like that. It's a very common way to deploy ransomware. In fact, it's the most common way. And I would find it highly interesting if this ransomware wasn't deployed in a similar manner. Now, what they did once they got in may have been sophisticated and something they've never seen before. That could be for a lot of reasons why they've never seen it before, but moving laterally in a network is not something that qualifies as something you've never seen before. But how they initially got in there will be interesting. But, if I'm looking at the statistics and I'm looking at how Ryuk ransomware is normally deployed, I see that it's normally deployed through a phishing attempt or through social engineering or some form of tricking an employee on doing something that allowed them in. So here's my final thought on this. I'm going to wrap it up here for today. I will definitely bring you more as more information comes out. But, one of the big things I keep hearing about the UHS attack and what UHS continues to say is that they had an extensive cybersecurity program. And one of the things that an extensive cybersecurity program includes is employee awareness training. Now, fortunately, a few of your UHS employees have reached out to me directly through this YouTube channel and have told me some information. I've had a chance to speak with them privately. And I also have read enough things through Reddit and Twitter that tells me that UHS did not provide regular cybersecurity training to their employees. It sounds like they may have done some awareness training, but from what it sounds like to me, the methods and the tactics that they're using today are what we would consider outdated. They don't bring enough information at enough frequency to be effective for people, so it's not top of mind and people are not thinking about whether or not should they click on a certain link or open a certain email attachment or respond to a certain email or answer a certain phone call a certain way and allow somebody to come into their computer. These are all things that should be trained upon on a regular basis. At Xact IT, we recommend a weekly cybersecurity training program with small bits of information, videos that people can watch, followed by a quiz, so you can track and assess whether or not the training is effective or the employees are understanding and comprehending what you're teaching them. Those are the best types of cybersecurity training programs because they always keep cybersecurity top of mind. It's a weekly delivery, it's quick, it's efficient, and it allows the company at a very high level to track to see the health of their cybersecurity training and how that's doing within their organization. The other thing the cybersecurity training would cover is that when you do have a breach or a cyber attack, you don't run to social media and tell everybody what's going on. Everybody at UHS, from the top all the way down to the bottom, should know this. There are medical people and people that work in these hospitals who are spilling out information all over social media, which is making it easy for analysts like me to go and take that information and figure out what's possibly going on here. It didn't take more than a few hours for many cybersecurity analysts to understand what UHS was up against. And that was simply because employees went right from their computers and their phones to social media to try to figure out what was going on. And this goes back to another issue with cybersecurity and disaster recovery, is having that established chain of communication when an event like this happens. Who is allowed to say what and when, and who's authorized to do what. That should be well known from all the way at the top to all the way at the bottom within the organization. And yes, the bigger your organization, the more of a challenge it becomes, but everyone needs to be aware of who is authorized to speak on and when and on whose behalf, because things like this will happen. Information will get out in a way that you don't want it to get out, which further gives leverage to the hackers, and it also hurts the company from a PR standpoint. So a lot of things to think about here. I always say there's a lot of things to learn from every hack. That's why I do my weekly hacking videos, who got hacked and breached this week. And we cover all these hacks and what went wrong and how we can be better as security people and how we can handle things in a more efficient manner when it comes to cybersecurity. So I hope this was helpful to you. Please like the video if you learned anything or you like if I said anything here. And subscribe to our channel if you really could. It really helps us out. And I look forward to bringing you more videos on cybersecurity. And we will have a video on who got hacked and breached this week because there are other hacks this week besides UHS one. I just wanted to do a follow-up video, and I'll probably do another video in maybe 2 or 3 days once we have more information about what happened over at UHS. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.